So everyone should have gotten the number at the front. If you didn't sign in, do so before you leave. If you want to ask a question, grab a number from our great team back there. We do things very orderly here. Obviously, everyone has an opinion. My opinion is no better than yours, vice versa. So we have a lot of information to get out there. It's the community meeting to for this information. So if you're going to ask a question, please be brief and concise and ask one. And if we have time at the end, which I doubt we will. All right. All right. So, Mayor, thanks for joining us. Thank you for having me. Obviously, it's a very important project, not only for Journal Square, but for the city. And I can tell you that we surveyed our membership about the project, and it wasn't so much pro or con against the project, but 73% of the people who answered were dissatisfied with the lack of transparency. So we appreciate you coming here to solve that. There's misinformation out there. There's lack of information. So if you can gear the presentation for that, we appreciate it. Yep. And I don't like this number, but 69% of the people who responded said they didn't think their input would matter. So we're going to change that today. If you have an opinion, please feel free to share it. And of course, if you have an opinion between now and next Wednesday, share it with the council person. And I see Councilperson Gilmore here. I don't see any other Councilperson. There's Area need with the G's joining us, and Councilman Pompidou on the back. Thank you. All right, let's get started. So, Mayor, I turn it over to you.
All right, so let's have some introductions here to start. My name is Joe Bound. I'm a local. Spent about the last few years of my career doing redevelopment projects, complex projects similar to this done in our firm. Firm has an area of expertise. This sort of complex projects that takes 10 years, a lot of stakeholders. Joe Bound.
My name is Mike Hanley. I'm the principal at NW Financial, city and municipalities within the state since 1996.
I'm Jason Long. I'm a architect and partner at OMA, the city's beginning first imagine what could happen to the Passai building and then Pompidou come on board and the design of that project. Also in the future.
And Stephen Fulop, Mayor of Jersey City. First I want to say thank you to Tom and the Journal Square Community Association. I would tell you that I sincerely thought that we would have even a larger crowd than this, much larger crowd, and I'm encouraged that all of you came out on a Saturday morning and are interested. My schedule is to be here as long as necessary. Answer any question you have and make sure that some of the miscommunication or misunderstanding is cleared up. And whether you agree or you don't agree with our opinion, we will provide facts and we will address misinformation. I do think that seeing some of the familiar faces in communication over time, if somebody says something that is disingenuous or dishonest, I will correct that because I think that's fair, and I see some conversation could go in that direction. I want to nip that in the bud. So I want to be upfront about the fact that I view this as a conversation back. I'm going to start also by saying that in 18 years, City Council on 8, or 19 years, 11 years of being mayor. And the first 3-term elected mayor in 70 years. And most of the time, people tell you that just don't rock the boat, don't make change, keep things status quo, you will get reelected. Because every time you engage in something, you get these sort of conversations and you open the opportunity for naysayers. We're all familiar with a lot of each other in this room here. And there are some people that I think it's fair to say that support me from 2013, and much of the ideas that I propose always are there as supported. There are also people in this room that oppose everything that I do, regardless of what I say. And I see some of those faces here. And then there's some people in this room that are genuinely here to ask questions. And I want to speak to those people most about what we are trying to do. I will tell you that in 18, 19 years, this is the first meeting that I've come to with a truck outside like that. Okay, now why do I point that out? okay? Because it's important to recognize that when we talk about the finances here and how it's structured, and the small amount relative to the impact it will have on you as we outreach, okay? And all of the things that we deal with day in and day out on the city council, dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars and projects of massive size, that somebody thinks it's worthwhile for them to spend money and hire an expensive truck to be outside of this specific project. So you have to ask what the motive is. And as we get through some of these things, we're going to address some of that stuff because there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of ulterior motives. I want to read something to start, okay? Because I think it's really, really important, okay? So if you indulge me for 2 minutes, okay? When the project was first proposed, there was community opposition, as is common with large development projects. Concerns were mainly centered around the potential displacement of residents, the cost of the project, and whether it would genuinely benefit the local community, especially in the city, a city that has long faced economic challenges. Many community members worried that the Art Center would cater more to wealthy patrons from outside, rather than serving the local population. There were also questions about the use of public funds for the project, especially given the city's financial struggles at the time. Some feared it would divert resources from other pressing needs in the city. However, the project's proponents, including state and local officials, argued that the project would be a catalyst and by attracting visitors, creating jobs, and fostering cultural growth. Over time, the project became a symbol of the city's resurgence and has since played a significant role in the city's redevelopment. In the end, while there was initial resistance, the center has been largely embraced as a positive force for both the arts, for the community, and the city's broader revitalization efforts. A lot of what we're talking about over here is that, and you're like, who wrote that? Are we talking about this specific room in this conversation? All of that. I want to plug in one word that I took out, okay? Because I think it's really, really important to have broader conversations. Change the one word, okay? Where I said center, okay? When the New Jersey Pact was first proposed, there was community opposition, as is common with large development projects. Concerns were mainly centered around the potential displacement of residents, the cost of the project, and whether it would genuinely benefit the local community, especially in the city of Newark, a city that has long faced economic challenges. Many community members worried that the NJPAC Art Center would cater more to wealthy patrons from outside the city, rather than serving the local population. There were also questions about the use of public funds in the project, especially given the city's financial struggles at the time. Some feared it would divert resources from other pressing needs in the city. However, the project's proponents, including state and local officials, argued that the project would be a catalyst for economic revitalization in Newark by attracting visitors, creating jobs, and fostering cultural. Over time, the project became a symbol of Newark's resurgence and has since played a significant role in Newark's redevelopment. In the end, while there was initial resistance, the NJPAC Center has been largely embraced as a positive force for the arts, for the community, and the city's broader revitalization. Now, I share that with you because that is a synopsis of 1990s, okay? And when I had NJ.com in my office, Josh was a part of that conversation 3 days ago. The first thing Margaret Schmidt, who's the editor, asked me, the first thing, correct me if I'm wrong, she said, why are you still pushing this project? Just fill me in on that, right? It was a conversation, it wasn't an argument, okay? She was curious, okay? And I said the following, you correct me if I'm wrong. I said to her, you are correct, Margaret. We worked on this since 2019. We have 6 pages of community meetings that many of you were a part of. Robust conversations with a lot of people individually. We heard your personal objectives, your personal opposition on why. We talked through about the importance of community involvement. And then all of a sudden, the governor, who's partner in this, pivots in March and takes away the state funds, which was vital for this. So at that moment in time, right, at that moment in time, I was technically off the hook. I didn't kill the project. We did everything we can to see something global in the city that is special for this city come here at that moment in time. And I'm done with it. The governor did something to us collectively, and it wasn't my fault. So anybody who said It's not coming here. It didn't work out. Nobody in the city blamed me. There was plenty of articles about that. Okay. And I said, for me to revisit this, I have to be one of two things. I have to be stupid, which maybe I am. Okay. Or I have to, in my heart, believe that this will be a great thing for this. It's one of those two things, all only. That's it. Okay. And so I am running for governor. You all know this. Okay. I have all the downside in the world by engaging in this conversation politically. I don't need to do it. Okay. I could have just said, we're fine. We're totally good. Nobody's asking for this in a room that I thought would be bigger, but nobody's in social media. You see the opposition. I could have walked away from it. I brought it back because I believe that in my heart, in 5 years and 10 years and 20 years and 30 years, this conversation will be so irrelevant and that will be so significant that somebody in Patterson or Trenton or Camden will read about this the same way that I'm telling you about what happened in J-Town. Now, I got one. I love the city like you guys. I want the best for this, for my family. To know that the facts as they're laid out, if this is a good thing or a bad thing for the city, it is not much room around that. You may have personal reasons, which I've heard from many people in private, why they feel a certain way. It could be political. It could be personal in regards to their nonprofit, that they feel that they may lose money personally on this. Those are fair. I'm not going to argue those points, but those are personal. If you believe in the future of Jersey City, it is very hard based on the economics to argue that this is not a good thing on how it is structured today. So I am going to open the conversation to literally anywhere you want to go. Budgets, timelines, why now, why urgency, what it will look like, community centers, how we section things up. It doesn't matter. We've put a lot of time into this and we have answers for all of that stuff because we wouldn't enter into something if we didn't feel comfortable. So there's no script. And like I said, I'm here to 3, 4, 5, whatever you want, to the last person leaves, okay? That's the way I look at it. So we're going to turn it over to Tom, and you take the questions where you go. I will correct misinformation, which I think is fair. But other than that, any question, go with it.
Mayor, let's start with what the plan is.
Okay. How many people here saw the presentation of the city council boardhouse? Okay, so let's do it this way. So I didn't know as a starting point whether that is, can we bring this easel out or is the presentation on the board? All right. Okay. In 2018, the city bought for roughly $10 million outside building. I had a conversation with Tom the G set aside, big partner, sold it to us at a relative discount without going to the market. And I said that with all of the things happening in Jersey City, that we should have an amazing cultural institution that also highlights all of the things that are happening. And at the time, there were skeptics on whether we could do this. Okay, and we went out, purchased the building, and then we hired some of the best professionals in the world, literally the best professionals in the world in the state to solicit a partner. And I didn't know, but I felt at the time that we have a story to tell in Jersey City, that if somebody were to step foot in the city, they would understand how special it is. And the geography and proximity to New York, the biggest media market in the world, we had a story to tell that was special. I know a lot of people live in this city historically, they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. We live in the shadow of New York City, but I believe that we should have great things in this city ourselves. So I said, we are going to find a world-class partner. We went out there and we found the Centre Pompidou. For those of you that don't know what it is the largest collection of modern art in all of Europe, the Pier of the MoMA, as a matter of fact. There's one in Brussels, Abu Dhabi, Shanghai, Paris, And they decided that their North American location, after lots of visits, would be in Jersey City because they felt it's nice to say. And they said that this is a special opportunity. Now, it is important to recognize that also we collectively made a little bit of a mistake at the beginning because we allowed it to be portrayed as a museum. Okay, we said museum, museum, museum. That is not what they are in Paris. That is not what they are anywhere else in the world, and that is not how they embrace the community here. In Paris, it is an extension of the library, the National Library System. If you go into it, they pride themselves on being a cultural institution, multimedia centers, after-school programs, major speakers coming there and convening on an ongoing basis. The displaying of artwork is a very small part of what they view their core mission to be, okay? They came here and they understood immediately that they said, look, we are not gonna come to Jersey City and hang Picassos on the world and think on the wall and think that we are better than what's happening across the river. It's a silly thing for us to think. They could do it, of course, if they wanted to, but they didn't view it that way. They spent years spending time in the community with many people over here, building relationships, okay? Asking about how to build the fabric here, how to make it better than what is, how to enhance the existing cultural community. 6 pages of meetings. We have 2 people here from them, and you can hear later today, they're sitting in the front row because they do view this as a stage. So correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. Okay? So we go through this process, and the pad side building was a tremendously expensive project. It was an expensive project because it was a retrofitted project. It was an old building. I liked it because I thought it had a very special character. So I thought that it was worthwhile to kind of lean into this because it had a special character. But at the same time, it was very expensive to fit out. It was very expensive, like fitting out an old home. If you build a new house, it is more cost effective than fitting out a historic home. So we had a lot of problems on the past. We had elevator shafts we had to move, we had stairs, we had fire suppression, we had to redo the roof. But we were making it work because it had bone structure that was really terrific, it had high enough ceilings to make it work, and it was okay. And the way that was structured at the time was that we collectively worked with the state to get an EDA grant to fund part of the project. That could be anywhere up to $70 million, and that would have gone to capital, in addition to the fact that the state had appropriated, which you have read, roughly $48 million. They took away the $48 million. The EDA stuff is still there because that was legislatively done, okay? So now we had a problem. We had a problem of a massive funding gap. And like I said, I could have walked away from it. But the timing worked that 808 Pavonia, which has been 10 years in the making, since I've been the mayor, that parking garage at 808 Pavonia has been a discussion about how to resolve the finances. 10 years. The Harwoods didn't want to separate from it. The father passed away. Many of you know the history. Okay, 10 years they couldn't get to a resolution. As luck would have it, pure luck, in June, they get to a resolution, they get the finances, and the building is scheduled to move forward in September. The financing is done. It's a 60-story building coming with the density that was approved 12 years ago. Now, you might say to me, I don't like that zoning, I don't like that height. We had nothing to do with it. It was the previous 2060 plan, and they are building by right. That building is coming, okay? But we started to think and say, how can we work a little bit more and figure out, maybe salvage this project? And that's where the conversation started around the pilots. That's where we are today. So you cannot wait indefinitely because there's financing issues. And if you lose this window of time, you lose the opportunity in the project because there's nowhere else there to put it. So that's the reason for the urgency, the timing, how it worked out. The MoMA across the river has residential on top. This is a model that is not abstract or weird or strange. It is something that works perfectly well elsewhere in the world. And the beauty of this is that it's much cheaper and it doesn't cost you anything today. Most of it is deferred cost. what you are getting today is 100,000 square feet of space in the heart of Journal Square. That is the conversation. If the Pompidou doesn't come, which we hope it does, because like I said, I believe it will be a huge asset, and they are here today. If they do not come, we own 100,000 square feet in the heart of Journal Square. By any metric, by the financial advisor that is sitting there, the exchange of dollars, net present value of what we are giving versus what we are receiving, we are ahead. It is hard to argue because there's no risk for us today. We are assuming 100,000 square feet in the heart of Journal Square. If you don't like the Pompidou, if you think the Pompidou will be gone in 5 years, in 10 years, which they won't, in 20 years, you still own 100,000 square feet in the heart of Journal Square that we selectively can never buy today. They are upfront paying $50 million to exchange all of the things that we need to make it work. The risk is on the developer in that. And if we were to do it ourselves, you're looking at close to $90 million plus because we are not efficient in that space. That's just the reality of it. This is the current location of the site that we're talking. Okay, can everybody see this here? Okay. This is the 808 site. Okay. Now everybody can see the Lowe's Theater is here. We closed financing on the Lowe's a month. It was a 10-year project also. I started that in 2013. Renovations are happening now because it was maybe the most complicated project we have, but thankfully that is moving. That is done. Lowe's here. You can see where the path is here, where the current tower of Journal Square. So everybody has their bearing as far as geography. I'll show you another view. I'm going to go through it and like I said, stay here as long as you need it. Have your time to ask questions. Okay. This is a blown up version of what it looks like today. In the current schematic, this over here is an art walk that is already approved. The original design for 808 anticipated having an art walk that connected the Lowe's to Mana. That was the goal of it. Now, the Centre Pompidou actually, as I said, pure luck in this situation, fits perfectly in the concept of an art walk, in the idea that you will come off the Journal Square path and actually walk through this area and have the Centre Pompidou over there, and then continue down to Mana, past the Lowe's. You can envision that it all fits perfectly together, but that wasn't the initial intent because we didn't anticipate it. That part is pure luck. But from a geography standpoint, I want you to understand how it looks and how it complicates. When you come off the path, this is the Lowe's Theater. You all see that? This is the Lowe's Theater. This is the building that the city council has approved condemnation of. Okay, we approved condemnation not because it's an eyesore, but because it is a construction risk. We worked with them for a long time, and it's a safety issue. If you are going to be having 3,000 people coming out of the Lowe's Theater after a performance, you cannot have this narrow alley walkway and think it's safe. So we started down the road, and we are in condemnation on this to widen this up to a proper plaza. Okay? Yeah.
That was a view from Kennedy.
Correct. Correct. Architects. As you walk down the art walk, this is the building one. This is a gallery space that will be built as part of gallery one that was already approved, that is required, that would already start the programming. And then as you're progressing down towards tower 2, you will see this pink space. It's not scheduled to be pink, but this represents the first floors of the Centre Pompidou, or the 100,000 square feet that we are assuming. So you can see it from the art walk. We are coming down Kennedy Boulevard at this time towards Mana, essentially past 808 Pavonia. This is a total of a 45-second walk. Okay. gives you an idea of as you approach Tower 2. A lot of the cultural institutions in New York have grand staircases. These are 4 floors, roughly 100,000 square feet. Our previous path side was roughly 75,000 square feet. So it's a larger space, and it's actually, I've seen some people writing emails that that we're forcing something into. So this is actually a much more flexible space. Higher ceilings, open floor plans. It is much more conducive to what we are trying to do. It is actually a much better working space than what I said earlier with regards to the path side. So this gives you a concept of how you are walking down, continuing towards Mana, but passing through the central pond. Okay, the last slide on. Okay, so this gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of the space. Again, all in 100,000 square feet. There is 2 floors of gallery, and then 1 floor of programming, and then parking underneath is included as well. I think roughly 300 spots. 300 spots for this. Okay. Now, the thing about it is that there is a whole floor at minimum of community programming, of classrooms, because if you visited it in Paris, this is their core mission. Their core mission is being part of the community and education around that. Their core mission is not displaying art. Like I said, it is an extension of the library there. So that's the starting point. I guess we'll open up to questions. If we want to revisit that, we'll go to the experts here and they can talk in more detail.
Thanks, Mayor, for the slides. You mentioned the next big ticket item being the budget. So, and I look for correction if it's wrong, but in our research shows that the Center Pompidou is a government-owned building that's 68% subsidized by the French government. So can you go through what subsidies are available for this project here in Jersey City and what the budget looks like? And the biggest question is, which you answered privately in our emails, what's the cost of the tax bill?
Yeah. Okay. So great question. Okay. When we looked at the budget and the proposed budget, we looked at the 20 most similar institutions, size and geography in the region of what we were trying to do. Okay. And almost all of them came back at a sub less than $20 million budget. And this was in conjunction with the governor's office at the time. So this is all of the programming operations, okay? Everything included. Now, the first lady at the time wanted us to build a surplus and make sure that we are extra conservative. So we modeled out at the time a $22 million budget, okay? To make sure that there was a little bit of flexibility. Today, the cost to the taxpayer is roughly 0.25 lot of money and $2 million from the library on expanded services, not a decrease in expanded budget. So you're looking at relatively our budget a very small amount. Where does the other dollars come from? Okay, we took the most conservative estimate of philanthropy from our professionals, and that equated to the biggest change on why it's economically viable today, but it was not economically viable in the previous model without the governor's help, was because that EDA grant that I told you about earlier that we were using for construction before, we're permitted to use that for operations now. So that carries the majority of the burden over the next 10 years. So we've modeled out the budget entirely for 10 years. On visitors, okay, because we had to hire for the state dependent consultants to go through this, we took their conservative estimate of 300,000 people per year, okay? So everything in there is conservative and realistic because we wanted to make sure that it is very, very limited cost to any of us. The benefits far outweigh that cost. We're not talking about huge dollars here relative to our budget. And that's why I first said that it is hard to fight this in the current operating budget because if you look at what we're spending on it and how it's modeled out and where the dollars are coming up ultimately, it's a minimal impact to you. And we're getting 100,000 square feet in Journal Square. If you think about it from a trade standpoint, it's really hard to argue. Next question.
All right.
Could we just fact check some of those budget numbers? Because I have a.
I mean, show that, yeah, why on paper. But today. That's not what we provided there. That is not the this is the right. It's true. No. I don't know. Yeah. I get it. You have been critical, but again, we're talking about the subject. We will provide you. We will provide you a 10-year budget. We'll have it. It's great. We have a well, from us, you received.
Yeah, I received this from a council person. This is the 10-year operating budget that was provided to them on, I believe, Monday of last week.
Go ahead.
You just stated that there was a city budget line item of 1 million.
1.25.
1.25, and
That budget have the SI.
this is a photo of the budget that you provided.
Go ahead.
And that states that the city landlord operating contribution is 2.25.
Okay.
The library budget is 2, so that's $1 million more than we just want to fact check.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, so that is incorrect. We provided, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna answer your question. We provided a updated version that factors in the SIP tax, and in all of the questions that were provided to the city council members, there's a special improvement tax that is levied against the high-rise buildings in this building. And we put a very conservative number in that of $1 million, and super conservative number on that. So when I said 1.25, it's $1 million from the SID. It was provided to the city council members, and $1 million on a tax from them, which could be higher. So in theory, you could have the city portion less, raise the tax on the bill.
So is that public information in the current
100%.
budget?
Same thing that happened with all on our question. You want to come out, Vice President? Take a number. Never only heard the mayor.
Seem to manage anything. In the past, can't seem to, Joe Strick can't manage the load now. And we're grateful for the executive during this last meeting. Has the city had any conversation, or when will the city have conversations with Pat and NA Transit about sustaining coming here for the cultural center opening up and Joe Strick becoming a full force attraction?
I think that the first step is whether it is coming, but we are, I speak to the CAP a lot. Is it a point of frustration? Obviously, with regards to how it routes on the weekends, how intermittent the trains are. We don't control that today, right? And the Port Authority is important to recognize is a reactionary agency. They react to issues. They are not a proactive agency, unfortunately. So they will respond accordingly as people are there. But the reality of the situation is that this conversation is about securing the space, and then the next conversation is about obviously all of the other things that go with that.
All right, so I'm gonna open up to questions now, and then I'll bring some other things that our board is supportive about. Question number 1, Deborah. No surprise there, that Deborah's our number.
Good morning.
Yep.
Thank you all. I'm gonna pivot.
Okay.
I received an email from city council members that I wrote on.
Great.
And except for mine. And I wanted to know, in the email, she said that the building was granted or will be granted, seeking a 30-year
Correct.
abatement. 30 years, folks. And that money is gonna be geared towards schools. Now, normally with abatements and pilots, that money is only shared between city and the county. So how can, what method, how are you going to ensure that the schools are going to get that 30%? And your statement that taxpayers, it will affect taxpayers by 1.25 million.
Correct.
Well, the French Court of Auditors in April 2024 did an audit of the Central Pompidou and said that their economic model is unsustainable due to their closure for 5 years to renovate that project and also to open a new project in Massey Springs. So I have a problem with the 1.25 million. If you want this and people want it, taxpayers shouldn't have to pay it. But also, why are they getting 30-year abatement, which means I'll be 97 before anybody in that building starts paying property tax.
I'll be 98.
Let me. So first, important to kind of speak to kind of track record here. We haven't granted a tax abatement for 7 years. Okay, it used to be by right, and we have totally changed the model. Now, you hire as part of this process financial advisors to model out what the city's income is versus what the developer's income is to make sure that it is a fair exchange. We have the financial advisor here. I'm going to turn it over to him momentarily to speak to that, okay, as he testified in front of the city council. The way that this is structured, and I started with kind of the NJ PAC comparison, because you could transplant in the Newark, the Science Center, the Camden Aquarium, they all have the same background in mind. The objective here is that once we start this project, we put an independent board in place, similar to Liberty Science Center, and they are responsible. There is no responsibility to the city taxpayer beyond that. The board has the responsibility. We modeled out what the support is for that, and that's where we are. Now, the financial issues in Paris, okay, and the Central Pompidou is not going away in Paris, okay? No, I know, I'm pointing to that because it's important, right? Is that it's unrelated to this, unrelated to Malaga? No, I mean, Malaga, for example, Spain, they just signed a new lease with them. Like it's unrelated to this project. No, it is.
Other sources for funding.
No.
So they could have sold you guys a bill of goods because I didn't find out about even the first project. You said you had a bunch of community meetings.
Yeah.
I'm usually plugged in. Never found out about it. And people I spoke to in my neighborhood, we didn't even know about this until we read about it either on social media or in the newspaper.
Yeah.
So, and even the second one, you snuck it, tried to sneak it in instead of bringing it first before you even got into all this planning, and that's where a lot of the resentment is coming
Well,
from.
Deborah,
Yeah. That's been a lot more.
we've been at this since 2019, okay? And there's been a lot of community meetings, and I could provide, you may not have known, okay? But I could provide you the dates and the meetings of that, okay? And the organizations on that.
Excuse me.
All right. Well, if you don't have it, we
The short answer is that there wouldn't be responsibility or risk. I think we've done a good job of eliminating that on the current structure.
All right.
Oh, the council, the city council changed legislatively a couple of years ago that any tax abatement, the Board of Education is made in whole. So there would be no reduction to the Board of Education from what they would see in conventional taxes versus they would see in pilot payment of taxes.
Right, but then how you gonna get that the Board of Education?
Because-
Next 30%, next 30 years.
because it's legislatively done by the city council, we're obligated to do it.
All right, who has question number 2?
Has to be, it's two buildings. Not just one, it's two separate towers. Yes.
Hold on, sir. You've got question number 2. Says 2 on it. If you want to ask a question, go to the front desk, please, and also sign up for the big email. All right, 2 is gone. How about number 3? 3, sir.
Right, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Born and raised in Jersey City. To fight. Pro-union, what about the entire project? Why is
Yeah. It's a good question. Can you hear the question in the back? I heard it. Oh, it's a good question. The 100,000 square feet would be built out entirely with a PLA. The balance of the building would not be, because there was no obligation on existing or prior zoning. As I touched earlier, all this stuff predates our administration. So when the existing zoning that was there did not have an affordable housing requirement, which was a mistake, okay? And didn't have a PLA requirement, which was a mistake. But there's no legal mechanism for the city to change that. The building that we're talking about, the building that we are talking about today, right? So if 50, 60 story building in the core of Journal Square was being and is being constructed regardless of this project. The pilot doesn't link to whether it comes or it doesn't come. So we've communicated to the pilots, I mean to the unions, is that we could guarantee a large piece of the build out to be 100% union because we control that. And the developer has said they will work with them on the second tower. It's a 2-tower project, 1 pilot, 2 towers, okay? In order to make that and explore how to make that maximum union possible. So that's kind of the backstory.
And just to follow up on that issue then, so benefit to the city, you make clear the benefit to the developer would be obviously having a cultural center within their building, so they can increase attraction, maybe raise rents. Why didn't the city, given that the new benefit to the developer, why didn't the city try to negotiate either union work or anything?
I'll tell you what, we always, first of all, we just worked with the community association here to expand affordable housing in the area. And we put the inclusionary zoning ordinance in place. We have affordable housing navigator for the first time, the overlay zone, built more affordable housing, and it's still, we're swimming upstream than anybody else in New Jersey. Again, there is no requirement on that building to do this. So the choices that we basically have today are not whether we have so much leverage to say, I want this and this and this, because the affordable housing component is extremely expensive to put into a building. That is extremely, extremely expensive. So the issues today are whether, do you want the building built without a securing 100,000 square feet, because that will happen under existing zoning as they legally are allowed to do, or do we want to secure 100,000 square feet underneath? We have modeled it out financially, and the exchange, as I said earlier, is financially beneficial. So that's the reason for that. We don't have a ton of leverage because this pilot is different in the sense that you're not questioning whether the building will get built. The building was scheduled to be built regardless of this situation here. The question is, do we want to secure an asset for the city? I'm just going to turn over to Mike Hanley here, who's the financial.
What the mayor correctly described is that we are getting a fair market discount that is being given from conventional taxes to the redeveloper in exchange for the asset we're receiving is fair, reasonable, and there is no likely place we would be able to make this trade and cause this project to be completed. So they get a benefit for 30 years, but we have no risk on the delivery and cost of the square footage that we're receiving, and we're getting it at a fair price.
As a
Introduce yourself again.
Mike Hanley, principal at NW. Work for the city.
We'll get to it, don't worry, yeah, we'll get to it, very orderly in here, HCCC. Everyone's got, very passionate, let's get, we need information to get out to the community with fast. Who has question number 4? Look at motion.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor, thank you for your presentation. You're so passionate about the project. I just had this one simple question. For 30 years, what's the cost in taxes? What's the cost?
I'll repeat the question, just if your mic isn't working, I'll repeat it, go ahead.
Cost, conventional on 2 towers on that land, what would they have to pay? Without the abatement, and how much with the abatement or with the pilot? So just those numbers for the 30 years.
The pilot represents approximately 47% of conventional taxes. Conventional taxes would be around $8.2 million. Would be 3.9.
So, and
So that's per year.
yes, that's yes, and that's future, so it's not impacting today's future, we're talking about. Start with that NJ Pack, and it's been really looking into kind of conversation elsewhere. The same conversation happened at the Prudential Center at the arena. And the difference between NJ Pack and that one was that the city committed at the time, so Newark committed $210 million. Put that in perspective, okay? So we're talking about securing 100,000 square feet in a pilot in exchange for the value of an asset there, right? In the Newark comparison, which I think a reasonable person would say that the arena has been an asset, the Devils being there is an asset, the concerts, it's a good thing. Not everybody agrees on every component of it, but it has helped the city. They committed $210 million to that. So we're talking about a discount of roughly a little bit more than $4 million, making the schools whole on that.
Yeah, so the school's gonna get their full, I guess, conventional payment, but as far as the city, about $150 million in cost savings to you, right, or to whoever's building. How much would the center have been cost to be built? How much that 100,000 square foot center? How much did that would that cost?
Let me get that in the original plan. It's a good question. The original plan at the Pathside building was 198 million, or am I right? Total project cost was $198 million across the street. This is obviously substantially less, but if you want to speak to exact that.
The project at Pathside, the part that we're receiving Gary would have cost us around $100 million. Around $100 million. Which over 30 years if we financed it would cost us nearly $2. We are better off by virtue of having this project be built this way than we would be. Actually,
Some of us don't really understand. People don't clear. Difficult for lay people to understand.
Okay,
Your
yeah.
profession.
Okay, I'll try again. I apologize. The construction cost at Pathside is going to be something around $100 million for the box that we're receiving from KRA. That would have cost us, if we financed it, probably around 200. We don't have to pay. We're receiving it as a discounted value from the developer. The cost that is much more. It's in the 60.
Question, I want to go back to the question about what if we weren't developing the site, is not about the that owns the property, and that site is being developed with gardens.
I think he's thinking about
Well, we don't do it. That's the site. This. But that's why we're all here. That's the question is, well, the dog. $0. This is, you're not gonna be in there, so we don't have that. Position. What about? What is?
So we owe the state some money, right, because they opened that, and I don't remember how many millions, but they want like a chunk, right? So where is that gonna come? And after 30 years, who owns the 100,000 square feet of space in the new building? And then, I'm sorry, it's a three-parter. Then what about the old location? Because we bought it, right? So are we gonna sell it and get that money back and, use it for something else, or what's the
Okay. So 6 million, money to the state, outside building, and who owns it?
Yeah,
Okay.
after 30 years, who owns that?
We own it. We own it.
In
So
perpetuity.
perpetuity. It's our space. We spent roughly $6 million on consultants and experts and architects and construction drawings, which is transferable to the new project. We've been back and forth with the state on reimbursables. They said they wanted their money back. We said that it was an approved expense. This is going on right now back and forth for some period of time, and will continue to go on for some period of time. The third question was.
Could we have
outside, outside.
Is it the architect?
Sam, you get it? Sam, I'm okay? Yeah, you can follow up with the question. Can't find building that exists. Do not have Tom mentioned, I think last week that sell it. Options are open.
And you may have just on the bench, and I hope you commit to a community meeting on that. We do have ideas without selling it. That's what's number 6? Yeah, what number are you, sir?
Number 6.
Basically, one thing I see that they should be on the small business front. Okay, so when we provided all of the economic impact studies to the state governor and first lady asked us for all of these economic impact studies. So we have to go hire independent experts, and that's part of the dollars that we're talking about right now. Because when she asked how it's reimbursable to the state, we started down the road some of the stuff they told us to do and they obligated us to do. And the estimates were that it would net $11 million back to Jersey City in improved rateable base and taxes as a byproduct of having this there. So that's increase in property value, number one, but we're extracting some of that with a special improvement tax. New businesses, so you're talking about things that open in proximity. So whether it's lunch places, restaurant, increased activity, employment. So there was $11 million that was ultimately back to us, and gross was $55 million that was back to the state. Also, the economic impact study, as far as investing goes, we had another study these things, what the arts impact is to the overall community. I don't have that stuff we can speak to you, Christine? Do you know it or not really? As far as what the benefit is for every dollar that we invest in this fund, that's why we have investment. It's the symphony orchestra that is. Fund that is so- just thinks-
And I chose Gilmore Square to build my business. Gentlemen. You just hear us. I want to say. This is not a foreign. Actual stuff. So the Boys and Girls Club downtown. And the same developer, the same sort of white box condo that was fitted out. Boys and Girls Club, given to the Boys and Girls in the page that you see today. So build a new Boys and Girls Club never have existed on now traditional public school. That model, the don't feel it as an impact with regards to construction. We worked with the developer, same sort of thing as a subsidy in order to get that PS16 built. Same sort of thing at the new East District that's being under construction at the Stacko project. We leverage development in order to make that a reality. Same thing at Nimbus, as a matter of fact. No, it's not. Yes. It's my turn. We're almost there. We're almost there. Don't do a big search. And it's not the council. The same way for art.
That's wrong. That's
It's not
right.
wrong.
You just.
Yes, we do not. Early.
And
Amazing artist, by the way. I just give credit to where it is. It's got.
It is a start. It's a long now. I feel that it's questioning it all. Open door for whatever, and how that benefits the long term. I've seen it happen.
Mayor, to add on. So, question we got in. City manager.
On how they operate every else in the world. Every else in the world, it is a cultural center with after-school programs, with senior programs, with community speakers. It is a lively area. Half of the space that is designated today is flex space, gallery space is listed. Half the space is community space with classrooms, with multimedia centers. Go to the institution in Paris, and I'm not advocating that here today, for sure. Buzzing children, and it's like very, very exciting, similar to Liberty Science Center, same sort of deal. I can tell you that say that other people do it, and that's why I should now building is Essex County saying, well, Turtleback Zoo is visited by everybody in New Jersey. Essex County benefits from it tremendously. It would be the same thing as us saying we should build a park. Yeah, other people visit economics and all that other stuff. Yes, council they ask for free tuition, free access, free membership. And our goal is that. Like that's that. To really accommodate Jersey people. That's it.
John Hatch, County Manager.
Thank you, Jim. So, that being said,
The conversation today is securing, again, the pilot is to secure the 100,000 square feet that we own in perpetuity. I don't want to get that lost in the situation. So when everybody's talking about how much will this cost, how much will that cost, The trade that we are talking about today is us acquiring an asset that we could never acquire otherwise. So in the case that the conversation with the Centre Pompidou totally falls sideways, for whatever reason, it becomes totally unaffordable, and we're conscious of that. It becomes an unreasonable partner, which I hope not, or the programming doesn't exist in a way that's you still own the space. So that is the important thing from the trade standpoint. I don't know if there's one end.
Yeah, so Joe Bauman again. My job is to protect the city through this process, right? And we're risk adverse. Jersey City's risk adverse, government's risk adverse. So the questions that's being called for the council at the next meeting is simple. Would we like to have 100,000 square feet of art, cultural, museum, education space that we will own in perpetuity in General Square? That's it. The obligations for the budgets and all the other things that are coming and we're estimating, those all are going to have to be worked out. The arrangement with the Pompidou, the arrangement with the library, the arrangement with the city, all those things are to come. So the way we manage risk is we have a specific decision, and if, as the mayor describes, things go south, we will own 100,000 square feet of educational, museum, cultural art space in downtown, guaranteed forever. How are we going to manage us doing the operating budget? So the expectation is not that Jersey City will run any cultural arts center. The expectation is there will be a nonprofit, similar to every other model in the state of Jersey City, the Science Center, back. So it will be a nonprofit responsible for entering into an agreement with the library for the $2 million to provide education services with the library. It'll be with the. It'll be up to the nonprofit to enter into an agreement with the special improvement district to support them as well. The city's role, as we contemplate, is as a landlord. That's why we have a line item for some of the operating expenses, which, by the way, we use estimates from the past on which that's more expensive than this. So the plan is you have to take this sort of iterative, right? So Mary uses the word luck. I don't like him using the word luck because my view is we prepared for 4 years and then an opportunity presented itself. That's what luck is. If we hadn't prepared, wouldn't have luck. If we didn't have the opportunity, we wouldn't have luck. So we prepared for 4 or 5 years to get to the moment where we can secure 100,000 square feet of arts, cultural, and educational space in square. That's the question. That's what everyone should decide. There will be a lot of work to be done between here and there and open up the public. We have to figure all these things out, and we will have to do it in the confines of the law. There are limits on what the city can agree to by future governing bodies. We just can't agree for the next 30 years. Yeah, so but again, the thing is, you have to, in order to make something this large work, you have to take one step after the other. You have to measure your risk, make a decision, and move on. So the first decision for us today is, for the abatement which Mike has described to us, is revenue neutral. I would argue that it's not because of all the other benefits. Take that for a moment. Do we want this 100,000 square feet of arts education space in General Square? We will then, and again, maybe people don't, right? But okay, I accept maybe people don't. But then from there we move on to how do we build the nonprofit? How do we get the operating budget to work? How do we build out the space?
Let me address the library situation. It's front, center, straightforward. Okay, so there has been no administration in the last 40 years that has invested in library administration. That is a fact. Okay, we have renovated tens of millions of dollars at the downtown library. As a matter of fact, next week is the first new library opening in the last 40 years that we, with the city council, actively did. So we are passionate about the library. This in no way is a reduction in services. The goal of the library services is to have satellite delivery from this existing building, the Centre Pompidou, into run by the same program, into all of the libraries throughout Jersey. There could be a presence overlapping between the programming that we're doing here at 808 Polonia versus the program that we're doing, whether it's Five Corners, whether it's downtown, throughout the city. And that's why that $2 million allocation is there. Again, going back to why the library is a core part of the institution and programming in Paris and everywhere else in the world. It is part of their community mission. And it was my mistake. I said it earlier. I should have corrected the narrative with regards to museum, because how people view that ultimately, and it's not consistent with what they
our objective is or their objective is, but that's where we are. But the library is an expanded service, not a reduction.
Mayor, does that mean that the city's gonna allocate additional $2 million to the library and then the library will get
Yes.
that back?
Well, so yes, the way it works, the way it works at the library, we just talked about library funding first. Library funding is mandated by the state to grow based on the rateable base. As the rateable base grows throughout the city, which we are growing at a very, very fast pace, the library budget grows exponentially with that. So those dollars are coming in, and in existing facilities with regards to services, even when we expand computer services, ESL services, all of those things, more money comes into that bucket than we could spend. So allocating it towards programming like this makes a lot of sense, and it doesn't impact you in a way that that some people might perceive that because of the way that the library funding is obligated.
All right, who is question number 7? Or 8? Richard.
One additional that the library budget, the library budget, which is in the last 6 years, this is an important thing. Why can we expand the services where we have? The library budget has expanded, has doubled. It has doubled in the last 6 years. Think about that. It has doubled in the last 6 years, not because we're raising taxes around that, because there's a formula that mandates as the rateable base increases for the city. So as you see these buildings grow, there is a mandate extension of the library that is extracted. That's how that works.
All right, if you feel comfortable identifying yourself and where you're from, someone who is watching online, ask the speaker.
Richard Law review of the official, book notice in the certified eccentric Jersey City. We're talking more and more about benefits, getting away from itself. It seems to me that we're spending money on franchise, year over year. Why don't we just have a museum of contemporary art, Jersey City Museum of Contemporary Art, the existing nonprofit art organization?
I'm gonna go back to something that Alvin said earlier about the reality of being there about global institutions of reach. Right? But how the extension is and what other folks about. The base will change 55. Second, they have invaluable experience from doing this all over the world in a successful model. Third, they have access to art and collections and history that we don't have access to. So we have tried as an administration, whether it's the Arts Trust Fund, we're the first in the country, and it's replicated now, to allocate dollars directly in that way, not towards operations, towards growth of independent art. We partnered at the Apple Tree House. Part of it to highlight Jersey City's history and have a museum of Jersey City history. Also, like realistic about scale and opportunity on that sort of thing. So
are you gonna have a series of this with the administration figures?
I think they had a lot of it. I don't know. Do you think we invite Anna up, who flew in yesterday? Okay. And maybe if you want to talk to that a little bit.
Hi, I'm Anna Middleton. Yeah. So to your question, everything Stephen said is true about parents, but also and the fact that it resonates profoundly, deeply with what we stand for and what we believe in, which is that art and museums or cultural centres, which is what we are there for the public and serve the public, and also serve local artists, because we talked a lot about the collection we have, and we do have masterpieces in modern contemporary art, one of the biggest collections in the world, one of here at MoMA, for our people that we work with as well. But what's important to us is how we can create programs that interweave that collection with exhibitions, with commissions, with production support for local artists, for associations, for museums, for all the existing venues that exist already in Jersey City, and how we can work with you together to create spaces for you and to create visibility for you. And also to create connections for you internationally, to bring all the expertise that we have, because I work with people who are really top in our field, what we can bring to you and how you can benefit from that. So this is core to our mission as well. And obviously a museum or a cultural centre, we are as a cultural centre, it's not just about art, it's about people. So obviously that is about being rooted in where we are. So everything we're doing, everything we're thinking about, all the programming that we've been receiving with Charles over here for 3 years as well on the project, is for Jersey City. So it's not just about taking the exhibitions that we do in Paris and bringing them here. It's about what resonates with Jersey City, with its history, with its communities, with its concerns, and how can we adapt our programming, which is multidisciplinary, by the way. It's not just about exhibitions, it's about performances, concerts, debates, roundtables, screenings, films, all of these things. How can we make it so that it works for Jersey City and that people feel that that's a place where they belong and where they can be and where they can also find their voices.
Right, so we're expecting in the future other
Absolutely. And we've
deal with others.
been working together in Charles for 3 years. Almost 200 people already from the cultural associations, figures, local artists. And it's actually not that many, really. We need to do more. And it will take us several years because it's a lot of groundwork and that takes time. And I'm in Paris, so I need to come over. And so I need to be on site to do that. But this is what we're about. We're about you. We're not about us. So, and also we are bringing the Caucus and Pompidou and all of that. So that's great for your kids.
What is your
So I want to highlight that Anna and the team have been, as an example, at JCAS every year since we're a partnership. You may not realize that, but they're going every year to the things beyond just meetings, because to them, it is very, very important that they are part of the community and they understand what the artists here care about. Every year they have been coming here because that has been their core mission prior to this conversation. The contract with the Pompidou is predicated on having a space. So it's a chicken and an egg thing. If we don't have a location, there's nothing to really discuss ultimately with them. I'm not going to sign a contract that obligates the city to something in a way that hurts us if we don't have a space. So you need to secure a space and then enter into conversation with them about contracts and terms. But they're here because they want to be here. They love the city like you all love the city. And that's why they're here. So I think we're going to get to a good place, but it's predicated on whether Wednesday works or it doesn't work. That's the reality.
I guess for me as elected official, we're voting for the developer to start building right away. Meanwhile, the benefit that the city is going to receive is contingent upon relationships and all this stuff that's going on. Why haven't we meshed out all of the logistics first before? Let me finish. So something we that if the 2,000 it's 85,000, and then 15,000 outside of whatever the ratio is, and then it gets additional money to build out that ratio. These people are not $60,000 of these gas is right.
And I push back, wait a second, wait, hold on. Answer. We have been in conversation over 4 years.
this reward is for. That's not what it's for. Process is yes, that there was a conversation and an introduction and effective reading. Speak of that process. Again, back to why the time. Because circumstances in a small window. I wish we had 8 months. The reality is that some people know that this is the window.
Then I'll one. Future questions?
Well, thank you, panel. I have a couple things to raise, and I don't want to spend too much time. I've finished a lot of speaking. My name is Samuel Pott. I'm a Jersey City resident, raised my family here. I started Nimbus Dance and Nimbus Dance Works 20 years ago. We're Jersey City's largest arts nonprofit. Big one. Arts in. So, just a couple things I want to say off the bat, and address the structural question. Nice to meet you. We are in Jersey City invariably in support of the arts. The arts are essential to who we are as people. They bring people together. Arts investment in Jersey City has been much needed for generations. It's why we have no institution in Jersey City. I co-signed a letter with the major arts organizations of Jersey City and esteemed artists who are not in favor of the Pompidou. We don't see the benefit. So just want to let you know that, okay? Yeah. But moving on, the question was raised around what is this discussion? Is this a discussion about a 30-year tax abatement, or is this a discussion about Pompidou? We can't separate those two, because the problem with that is that if we build out a 100,000 square foot space that is a cultural space, that space comes with cost. And I'm talking about not the build out, because it'll get built. I'm sure we can get it built. You know, there's money. We had the state lined up to give a line item to build the half side, but it was going to be over there. We've got developers. You know, we can get this thing built. The real question is the sustainability, and then beyond that, what that means to our community. So just to clarify, because the person's NJ Pack, Prudential Arena, Red Bull Arena, and various other major infrastructure investments. And I want to dispel this because really, category really different. Okay, and let me spell this out. Red Bull Arena is a profit model. Hosting sports, pop music stars, and is making money. That is that's been where businesses profit. There's business. What we are talking about. I just want to make that clear to Mr. Fuller, because if you're confused about this, you should understand. Okay, there's a real difference. Okay, let me finish. There's a clear difference between a for-profit model and a non-profit cultural space. Non-profit cultural spaces, however much we love them, because we do love them out there, we think they're important, they lose money. They lose a ton of money. And the only reason they stay afloat is because wealthy private foundations and government prop them up. Okay? Right. Yeah, no, oh, okay, no, I'll get to that. Okay, quiet, please. I'll get to that. I just noticed, I noticed field like that. So let me clarify this, because it's so important, really important. Investment's going to cost $100 million, hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is 7% paid for by taxpayers. So we need to get clear on this. Okay,
So let me just talk about a couple more things here. All right. If we build this what is it? 1,000 square foot space, and it doesn't work out with the Pompidou, because we're gonna get into their financial model in just a moment. But let's say that financial model doesn't work. Okay, you're stuck. You said this is great for Jersey City. We got a 100,000 square foot space dedicated to cultural art. If we can't afford the Pompidou, who's gonna move into that one? Who's gonna back a cultural organization to move in a 100 square foot space in Jersey Square? Okay, I'm telling you right now, there is not an organization can just move in without extensive backing. And I'm talking like for all the business people in the room. You know, look, I'm a business person too. I'm trying to break this down so we're making a smart, sound financial decision for the future of our city. It benefits everybody. Okay, I'm really trying to be reasonable here. The mayor construed my remarks as being against everything he does. It's not true. I'm trying to stand up for what is. Break it down for you all, okay? What are my thoughts here? Yeah, I know there's a lot to say, but I just want to. Comments or I want to break down a little bit more about arts funding versus other parts of the state, because the mayor talked about NJ to this entity. So we already talked about how for-profit models like this is clarifying. We talked about how for-profit models like potential comparison we're talking about here. Those make money, this loses money. JPAC is also not. I have stats from two of the major foundations that exclusively give funding to the Victoria Foundation. The foundation gets $47 million a year to entities in Newark. The Victoria Foundation gets $27 million a year to entities in Newark. New Jersey City has no such private foundation. That has to be a major piece of any major nonprofit institution. Those two entities are backing NJPAC along with $1 million from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, which this entity in its first year would not be entitled to. So, I just want to really back up here. Say again, what they're investing in here potentially is a foreign institution, and I've been there. It's a great institution. Again, the arts are important. This is not a fight or your institution. This is a realistic look at the financial model of this game. No, I'm not kidding. And our community. Okay, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna give up the mic here. I just want to say one last thing because I think this is just so important about here. What we're deciding here is whether we are going to invest in Jersey City, in our people, in our communities, in our resources, so that what we invest in builds and grows into something wonderful. The Pompidou requires us to pay a licensing fee to use their name. If we do not come up with that money to pay their licensing fee, they're not invested. Okay, we've heard a lot of talk about how they're going to get involved in our community, and as soon as they don't see that check, they're not going to be involved in the community. I'm sorry. But what it means to get involved in the Jersey City, it's deep, and it takes a lot. That's all. People. How much?
same exact pushback. First thing I said when I got here, structure the same exact way, same exact conversation. Today, first thing I said, secondly, I also said that that's what I said. I said this. I said that. We have had I did not oppose something that's not true. Okay, I mean, and I feel comfortable. Expert. The same question. Contract. Because of both. There's no contract. I can't. Okay. So, total personnel. Try to make everything as conservative.
Okay, so that's really actually a bit, not my development, but yeah, that's right.
I would just ask the council member to kind of.
One thing about I mean, it's not a business. Yeah, it's
Yeah. Okay, a lot of that's staying. 5 years. Full round number and then again, try. You can see that show up. That's the inside of the contract. John, let's go in order. Right here, round number 10.
I did want to speak, it's very tough to follow up, Sam, two local parts. Again, the city worked on a commitment that they have representation on this future board. So we can commit to them, they can help oversee the center, have say in what's in the center, and what their role in the platform. And if you could speak to your other worldwide sites on how you work with local arts community and smaller arts communities, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I'm gonna turn it over to Anna. Amy, the board structure will be controlled by, initially the setup by, a conversation with the council, so you can dictate that if you like, okay? And we're happy to include what you think is appropriate. I mean, I do believe that local arts should be a part of that. To Anna on how they do it.
And how we do it, it's not necessarily the same. But safer for us, obviously the otherwise will be a part of but also in terms of programming and visibility and production support and commissioning and mentorship for art students as well, because they're all mentorship, and also creating opportunities internationally for artists to join the city, whether that be through our networking that we have at museums across the world, and also with commissions that we can do for artists here. So the idea is that the Pompidou Center in Jersey City is a platform for artists, but I mean artists in the broadest sense. So it's poets, performers, architects, designers, it's dancers, whatever. It's not just painters. So it's a platform for artists, and that's one of our primary terms is to be that the community of Jersey City, the arts community.
I'm gonna let me. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Josephine Bra. I live.
Where are you? Just
My question is just a little bit, but I want to make it a little bit explicit. Related to the funding related to elsewhere in the state. And as you mentioned, Mayor, the way that New Jersey libraries are funded is very specific. Each municipality is required to fund their library at a specific minimum amount. That's 33 cents for every $1,000 on your equalized valuation. Of course, the municipality can choose to fund their library more than that. My math from the 2023 numbers says that Jersey City funds the Jersey City Public Library pretty much right at that minimum, which is 16 million-ish in 2023. As you discussed before, the library will be responsible for 2 million of that 16 ish again, but and more than that in the following years. My question is, if the Pompidou is funded as outlined, will the library be allocated additional funds from the overall city budget to make up for the funds that are being allocated to it and stipend to the Pompidou, or will the library, as we know it now, be expected to operate with less than the location?
It's added our intention is out. Our intention is added satellite libraries around the city. Additional money. Yes, it's our intention. Right. Question number 12.
Hi, Mayor. My name is Melissa. I'm actually responsible for the truck out front. I'm responsible with a collection of grassroots arts organizations, many of those who signed the letter. I worked until 3 in the morning creating content for the truck based on the facts that we were able to find from very little that was available publicly. So I just wanted to check you on that and just make you aware that this is the power of solidarity in our community. We care very deeply about this project in New Jersey City. Part of that effort, and this is my question,
is what is the insurance that DEI will be a part of the contractors, subcontractors, hiring, events and programs in Jersey City? Because the artists and all the art organizations that are here today, we supplement arts programming in Jersey City schools and in Jersey City in general. We make up the extras that the city isn't able to afford. We do that. So we want to make sure that these programs are well funded. That, for example, in places like Ollie Comfort, that school is in utter disrepair and has almost no arts program. I was there actually doing a digital arts program with them a few years ago. We really, really would like to make sure that we're not getting into a Robert Moses situation, that we're not getting into a situation where the community is completely cut out. And I work with major arts organizations around the world. I happen to work at a major arts organization that I will not name today. But we have, every single arts organization has a department called advocacy. And all they do is go up to Albany and they go, or wherever, state they're in, and all they're doing is looking for arts funding. So my question, especially the Pompidou, is as you absorb arts funding from the state, federal, city organizations, how are we going to make sure that, especially through DEI, that we're getting that money down to grassroots? Because that's what we care about. It's not just like, we care about the Pompidou name. We care about these programs that need to be better funded and supported, and that they're distributed in the entire city, not just in small satellite. That's all. It's not very expensive. The expense. Three more. Just think about
and that will attract donors because internet. No, we don't have So internationally, we know because we have a huge network. We are known.
Financials, nobody can
So other than that, we have. Doesn't have such a reputation.
Yeah.
But not in the digital and everything. Mentioned Massey, so unrelated to the project running here. So what I was going to say was we're like a beacon, so we can bring in the money and then we can pass it down. So you're going to take it time. That's not about taking it. It's about what it's not sharing. Sure. But that's not so complicated.
That's a collective thing that you benefit from as much as every other. A lot of work and dollars, and I like that. Limitations to that. Good thing about the budget today, I just want to highlight the same point that the majority of the burden is carried by the state. That's the majority of it. So for 10 years, when we mapped out that budget for you guys, you will see that that's the most significant part of this. Everything else is super conservative. we put the philanthropy at roughly $3 million a year, which is a super conservative number when you compare it to NJPAC, the Liberty Science Center, Canton Aquarium, or any of those things, because yes, again, it's a question of, it is a question of space. Do we have an institution that we are partnering with, and do we secure the space? I don't think there's gonna be any shortage of opportunity to reach that objective. Express interest, pushed it off because we don't have space. So it's a premature. Look at the budget on the urban estimate that we put up. Super tame.
I can read that next.
For 13.
Yes, lucky 13. Thank you, Tom, and the Transport Association. Thank you very much, Council. G's, Councilman Prince Array, Councilman Gilmore. Because you guys are making decisions. It's real. Fascinating. This is for consciousness first. But I'm not saying it hasn't happened. What can you start out with that? Use this paper term. As far as this is, that's not the way we would like our teaching. Administration, later, support funds where former employees accuse them of making stuff up on the fly. And that's up for us to decide as voters. We can either believe them or not. But as people start pointing out during this meeting, they want to fact check them. Everyone saw in the various presidential debates about attempts at fact check. Say what they want to say at the moment, and very good politicians who may very well make this trend. Don't know. Some ways I would like to see him move on and out of Jersey City. Yeah. Probably wouldn't disagree. He's free. You're a very good guy. I don't know. You know, we have to be able to hold our elected officials accountable. So I'm concerned with accountability. And I think Mayor Cole has come out in support of public referendums for a number of issues. We voted on Airbnb, we voted on changing elections, we support voting on casinos at Liberty State Park, Jason Liberty State Park, he supported So my question is, why will we not move forward with a public referendum on this abatement? And let's go forward with it.
So the reason that I said that earlier, David, is my phone. I'm gonna respond to those things. Anybody's questions for it? There. Except things that are personal. And I would just say, I would say, question, problem. Okay. Years. The question about it, you can go and see for yourself. There's no question. Why the trending. You know, on why that, and I don't know what else to tell you. Random and just basically. I articulated that, and you know that person of that basic. Voted.
I'll ask. Council people notified. As now.
The council was noted, so the project started in 2018, 19, okay, and then we found a partner. So it's been going on now for 4 years with lots of community. This iteration, and I just want to emphasize the same thing, is a byproduct of lucky timing, okay? And that's it, right? The project was being built and is scheduled to be built and commence construction regardless. The financing is in place. There is a limited opportunity to find a location in proximity to where we want it to be. This is one of the final opportunities. That is why the time is. So we sat down with the council members individually. We outlined for them what we were proposing. We solicited questions. We provided a budget. Some of them had more questions. We provided them more questions. We tried our best to distribute it to the public. At the caucus meeting the first time, some of the council members asked us, can you go and have a public meeting? I reached out to Tom Zupa that night and scheduled the meeting for today. But the limited amount of time. Question. Conversations about it. What's the, yeah, here's the, how many, yeah. Right.
So I do have. Not. So I do have two issues. One about the building and big. The 30-year tax abatement, financial loss of tax abatement. Parent relationship. Objects, why are they pushing? With some. Dale Road. Got into the speed, which is like to me, really. Lost, we don't have time now, suddenly, for all these years, also, pulled out of it. Yeah. One thing I'm not. We should hide it. Because that's bigger. Continue. Why should we put the building towers already have? The other question was about building on separate sites. And it is in the red. That's why you're farming out to other places. It's the thing.
enter into a conversation. Structured in 10-year contract, majority, 10-year majority of construction versus the home construction. Biggest reason why you think just find ways. I need a project today. This space, that's the best. $500,000 for secure financing for a project is forward because it is very difficult. Value. Now, we have had conversations about this years. Now, this exact structure, and it's a fair thing. That's why we're here. About that's been a conversation for 4 years. Cycles. It's not a new conversation. They've had 200 meetings. The conversation around conversation. We are securing an asset. I don't know how I'm doing that. I mean, I can't see the Paris and it says that saying that
Just gonna ask you a question about
EDA grant and then what the dollars are, and then the special improvement tax, and the philanthropy numbers, and the uncertainty around things like philanthropy are super conservative, super attainable, relative to every other institution like that. So we feel pretty comfortable.
But you only did 10 years. Pilot is for 30.
Because I mean, look, if you modeled out 30 years on what somebody would do philanthropically, it's pretty hard to get visibility. Value of the 30-year abatement exchange not for any benefit for them, it's for us to secure the space. That is of equal value or more to the city. Now, what you see in nonprofits like this is as over time philanthropy increases and then access to other government grants and whatnot increases as it becomes more sustainable by itself. And we would expect this to be the same thing. I touched on New Jersey PAC because it's a similar nonprofit. It's a similar nonprofit that the narrative was exactly the same in the 1990s. You could have inserted this project for that conversation that I said earlier, those 3 paragraphs, it would have been the same. You would have thought we're talking about Jersey City in 2024. That's the reason I did it. This is not a new thing.
All right, so we're gonna ask question 15. Please ask your most concise question. If you have multiple, ask your best question. I know we have leaders from talk to people a lot longer, but. Number 15.
Hello, my name is Danielle Dano, lifelong Jersey City resident of the city of East. I'm going to pivot away from the arts community and the funding and finances, as there has been numerous conversations as well as numerous questions already asked. I'm going to bring up the point of sustainability. Now, let's say that Pompidou does get the space on Wednesday. The question I have is, what efforts are being made to ensure that Center Pompidou operates in an environmentally sustainable manner, both in terms of its exhibitions and its day-to-day operations? As many know, there's going to be an ordinance on Wednesday as first reading about expanding our tree campaign, as well as other environmental ordinances that have to be passed. So that's the question. Like, how can
urban and environmental.
So the environment, so like, the museum is big exhibition. Applying work. Well, so the exhibitions are not necessarily good. So this is not the word we're thinking about a lot, and we did well because we're directly impacted by that. One of the ways that we can be better with the environment is to ship less, ship our artworks over but for a longer period, and then, as I was saying earlier, work locally or local houses. So that's one of the ways that we're thinking about how we can reduce what carbon emissions through the way that we program our exhibition.
I think it's a fair point on the DEI comment that was mentioned earlier and sustainability. The Wednesday vote is not the contract with them. That's the next step. And you're right. I mean, those things, the council members are here, which are going to advocate. So those are things that we can.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yep.
Ways that whoever happens.
Yes. Yeah.
Make sure that the environmental and sustainable
Fair.
effort of the city.
It's fair. It's fair. It'll be covered by the contract and the next steps.
Hi there, I'm Joel Brooks. I'm the surveyor. So, Mayor Philip, you said based conversation in terms of Journal Square 2050. That was you corporate was up there, or I think some of the developers are here too. Why it's a good deal for Jersey City taxpayers. There's no refinancing. Why it's a good deal for Jersey for the developers to get. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. I think that the maybe I'll turn it back over to Mike Hamley on this, but the value of the space that we're getting is of greater value or equal value, you could argue greater value, it's the cost to construct, than what the developer is getting, and the risk ultimately is larger on the developer side because it's over 30 years versus where we are. That's the conversation. The complicated thing about this project in an isolated way is that the project, again, the timing issue is a important part of this conversation. The project was getting constructed, scheduled to start September, October, regardless of this. So the project was getting built based on that plan. Again, I voted for it in 2010 because there was no development at the time. And we moved forward. I was in the city council at the time. I voted for it. And probably in hindsight, we should have factored in more inclusionary zoning and whatnot, but the city didn't have that conversation at that time. If you remember, it was a totally different narrative over here. And tried to correct it, obviously, with the Jersey Square Community Association, and they led the charge on this. But the conversation is around attaining the asset there. And that's why it's happening now. It could happen without that, and they'll build a building, and we won't have the asset. That's really what the conversation is about. Yeah, sure.
So just for, the lay person out there, so if the ordinance is not passed on Wednesday, developers can build as of right redevelopment plan.
Correct.
Pilot or without a pilot?
It would build without a pilot or community give back, and there's no obligation on the PLA. So the thing about the PLA, which is the project labor agreement, is that we can obligate on the portion we have. There's nothing there, and there was no in the core, which this is part of. There's no affordable housing requirement, so they can build by right without changing anything. So they're not getting more units, they're not getting more density. None of that stuff has changed as a byproduct of that. What has changed is that we saw an opportunity to capitalize on us owning some space, and we started this conversation.
So they would pay the 8.2 million to
whatever the number was that Mike handed. That's it. Yeah, I think it was 8.2.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Hello, thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Mayor for coming in and actually talking to community before the vote, because it was not the fact of the symphony, right? And I actually met, well, let me introduce myself. My name is Olga Lina. Executive producer and a founder of Jersey City Theater Center. And also with our own money, our family, Ben and I, we renovated White Eagle. And the mayor's congratulations that year to us was, it's not going to survive even a year. It costs taxpayer $0. And my question to the mayor, when he got so much love for the art, and especially international art, and why he said that we're not going to even survive a year.
Oh,
Please. But the arts, Steve, those who were, you were at that meeting, right? When Steve stand in front of all the artists in a room, that will see how, when Robinson asked you, and she said, okay, Robinson said, White Eagle Hall was built on August and Ben's money. And you said they might not even survive a year. And it was said in front of arts community Steve at Batoon Center. That's one. Number two, what investment my family made in the arts, and I made in the arts in Jersey City. I work 80 hours a week in order to sustain my organization. I would like to know how much money have you donated to arts in last 10 years? Because you donated zero. Theater Center.
I thought we have purchased art from local artists, okay? And this is not a question here of what have I donated to the Jersey City Theater Center. I think we're losing our way here. No, it's not. This is not the conversation.
No.
Like, wait a second, time out for a second. I do not, this is not related to this. If I said that, which I don't think I did, say I did. And you know what? I don't know what the tell you. I mean,
See it in conversation of AGPAC. Because I know exactly, not only I'm a member of IFA, I also know what's going on in the state. And I know that AGPAC, and you can search that, is not a sustainable model. Okay? AGPAC just their parking lots in order to become a real estate company. And real estate is sustaining anything and the state, not the arts. So if we don't succeed to become the parking lot, make Pompidou sustainable. No. If you can as you know, you also made recommendations, and they are our tenants at White Eagle Hall, as many of you probably know as well. And behind Prudential Center are billionaires, right? And if they don't make our rent at White Eagle Hall, they have a huge target. So I'd like to know our Jersey City residents are going to cover all the expenses for property. Another thing, Anna,
I respect you. But I don't think this diverse community needs any superior culture to tell them how to run their arts. You understand? Your government is giving you $4.2 billion, 4.68 million people, and you're still in Iran, in France.
One question.
One question, personal gripe against anyone here. All right. Can you respond to me?
I think it's ridiculous to assume that NJPAC is not successful, and as NJPAC had the same station that started, but financially, it has been a huge asset to Newark. It is a huge asset to the state of New Jersey. That and coincidentally, just this week, if you Google it, it's true that they got hundreds of millions of dollars in support from the EDA, from philanthropy, and they built a whole new community center, an extension of that. It has been a success by any metric. So if you were going to compare this to NJPAC, I would take that comparison every single day.
Suggest that you have. It's a not-for-profit.
What was the resource?
It is also slightly more sustainable.
So slightly more sustainable this year, it's just right now.
So there was a period of 3 years. That's the records for NJPAC. What's the website, please?
Thank you. You probably could Google KPMG. Especially 18.
Good morning. My name is Abatement, and I'm from Hudson. And I just want to thank you for organizing the meeting because, Mayor, all due respect, you don't make it to our time. Second of all, I came here from New York over 30 years ago, where Jersey City was affordable. It's no longer. And a lot of you guys said great things. I'm in corporate America, so I need you to show me the numbers and not just tell me, oh, this, you don't mean this. Show me how much more my taxes are going up. Because last year I got killed. Okay? So that's what I want. I don't know if you guys want. Show me a number. It's a great idea. Okay, you want to great, you know, I think this is a great idea, but I need to show me for my taxes at the beginning. Okay? You keep talking about 100,000 square feet. Okay, so if it's not profitable, right? Let's say you do this and it doesn't work out, and now is it going to be profitable once you shut the doors? And what are we going to do? What plan do we have for it? Because we need a backup plan. That's a lot of square feet.
The hilltop meetings are a little bit different than the location meetings that are more sporadic. So when I do find out, then I do go. The same way when they invite me, then I go. But they are sporadic. They're unlike other community meetings that happen every single month on a set time. Hilltop doesn't operate that way. I think you would be sympathetic to that. With regards to numbers, I told him that, as I said publicly, provide that budget. We've outlined it. I think best that we can in a very clear way. If you don't want it, as Mike said earlier, I mean, you could say that they just don't want it, but we will provide that ultimately. On the 100,000 square feet, it is a huge asset for whatever administration. You can never get that again. That is what we are getting. Finally, on your taxes, the way it is structured today, it is not going to have an impact on your taxes because it is a small dollar as it relates to your dollar contribution into this structure because of how it's outlined. With regards to your taxes historically, or this year you had less than 2%. Last year was 50. But wait a second. Wait a second. I control the municipal budget. Okay.
right? That's one portion of your taxes, okay? They approved your budget, right, our budget, which impact your taxes at less than 2%, okay? And it was the same last year. I can't speak to anything else on that. I could speak to over the 11 years that we've been there, we've been very, very prudent on the city side. And we're happy to provide that as well, and very careful on the city side, because we're conscious of this. This will not have an impact on you, how it's structured today. We're going in order, Sam. Yes, it does. The question is it worthwhile for us to own 100,000 square feet? Each, like, bring back. But the thing is, the 60 tax payments that were committed to us, the reason that the taxes went up is correct. Anyone who doesn't understand the reason school taxes went up as a president. On your Board of Education budget, traditionally, we were subsidized by $400 million from the state. So your Board of Education budget, there's about $200 million from the city, and there was $400 million from the state. What happened was, as the city gave out multiple abatements, over $8 billion worth of properties for abatements, the state said, you have all these fancy buildings, you're not paying your fair share, we're gonna take away this money. So out of that $400 million, the state has cut from our budget in the local municipality, $150 million. So when people ask, like, oh, what's gonna happen with these payments? What is the money that they're contributing? The reason all this conversation around the schools happen, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a lot of money that these abatements do not pay as pilot fees towards the schools. And so what happens is, this money gets put back on the taxpayer, so your local taxes. So there's the school side, there's the municipal side. Now, separate from that conversation, I just want to fully understand the financing of this deal. So we're talking about, and Mike, I think this is specifically for you. I think the question is it $150 million in deferred taxes is the cost that we're attributing towards the space? Like, what is the exact cost?
And it's for debt, but probably on.
So, and so just to be clear, so that means this project costs the Jersey taxpayers $150 million worth of taxes that the developer doesn't pay, that essentially you are paying, right? Like, it's just deferred payments that they're not going to be paying. That's what it is. That's right, it's a reduction, right? So if they were an additional $150 million in tax, this deal is going to reduce their tax bill. And I think it's a reasonable question to ask. Is the $150 million worth this space? I think that's a reasonable question.
The answer is yes, it is a fair trade. The asset that we are requiring. The asset that we are requiring, you could never get for less dollars. And we don't have to build it. It's being built for us. We're not at risk for the revenue stream in the future as it relates to the project. This is, if you want the Pompidou, this is an excellent solution to get it. If you don't want the Pompidou, then you can have the tax dollars back. That's what the vote's been. But the asset itself, even if it doesn't become the Pompidou, is still incredibly valuable. It's
the grass. Yes, I just wanted to get confirmation of the numbers because I just wanted to see what the cost is, right? Like, it's not a $1 million over the course of $1 million. And
I agree with you. Like on that part.
Well, I think we have to correct this. That is not purchasing with dollars that we would otherwise receive in the future. It's not an annual cost where we're gonna do energy. It's a difference.
And the $1 million cost
Is a actual operating. Yep. And they need to be distinct.
A similar situation that the estimates are going back to saying the same thing, is that the city would reap $11 million more in rateables as a byproduct of that. So I think if you look about the trade, we are still ahead on that. And even if that is saying, okay, that's too aggressive of an estimate, it's not our number, and you say cut it in half, you're still ahead economically from a rateable base because it is there. So I get the fact that you're saying on this specific project, but as it relates to the taxpayer, which I think is what people are concerned about here, the effect is negligible. And she asked whether it would impact her taxes today, and I said no, because the dollar is very, very small.
That's right. So yeah, again, today it wouldn't impact it, yeah, but there is a future conversation both in the library fee addition, right? So about $3 million. I have two questions for you. Is so we know for sure that the 70
The legislation, I have to pick up the sum. I guess he didn't realize that. No, but I will ask him.
so I think it's important for us to get that. How are we feeling about it?
Good question. Good question. So the 10 years we projected. So what is it in that? Is that so past 10 years, I think that you will have less of a reliance on this, and that's the reason when you look at the model over the 10 years, the number is not stagnant as it relates to. It's not stagnant as it relates to what the $70 million is. It decreases gradually over time for that reason. Yeah. Yeah. The number decreases on the reliance on the EDA.
Just last question on this pilot thing. This is the first time we ever do a pilot.
Right. Yes.
The pilot, so because this pilot would now be placed in schools, so the 40% of the tax bill that's now in schools,
The majority of the pilot goes towards the schools.
Right. The question I'm asking is, so traditionally, 3.2 million. Would this be 40% of the 4 million now that goes to the schools, or would it still be under? Like, how much do the schools get?
Schools are the council is very good. Part is not part of this. Construction process initially or for that reason, we're able to pivot.
Next question. I think we're up to 17,
No, you're
18.
20.
Oh,
My name is Abatement. I lived here years. I'm one of the founders of Jersey City Pride. I have been with the arts community for over 20 years. Steve, thank you for coming. Tom, thank you for organizing this, and thank you for the panel, and very much thank you for the council here. And for all of us, I think that it's, a lot of people would probably want to be here. So the people that could be here, I think that that's really important, that we all serve as mouthpieces to our fellow residents who couldn't make it, and let them know what you're. I'm one of the people who said the meeting is for. I don't have any bad feelings towards you, Steve. I voted for you. We have a good relationship. I am here to get information, and I feel like I have. So my questions have changed because some people have asked some of them, and I feel like part of the conversation has changed. So my first question is just clarity on what we're talking about, right? Because we saw this wonderful presentation of the Pompidou. That's what you led us, right?
Yeah.
But now you're telling us that the vote is not about the Pompidou because we don't have a contract. It is about this new opportunity to purchase a space in Journal Square. However, the presentation was about the Pompidou. So I think that leads to a lot of confusion, right? So I want the council people to really understand that, right? The mayor said the vote is not about the Pompidou. It is about acquiring 100,000 square foot space in Journal Square that the city will own. And correct me if I'm wrong, that the city will be responsible to build out. KRE is not building out that space, right? So we will have to do that as well. And we do not have a very good history, in my personal opinion, of building out arts institutions. We had a museum. We don't anymore. I mean, I know we have one now, but I'm talking about we had a Jersey City Arts Museum. It's gone. The city ran it. Okay, and then the city sold it to other people for $1, and then it went under. And there's lots of things we could talk about, but that's like the basic gist of it. In a nutshell, for people who don't know, who didn't live here. I'm not pointing fingers. I just want to give some history. So I think it's important. The second thing is that we had a 111 building. There's a lot of history there. It's all gone. If you want to see it, it's a bunch of bricks downtown that also was supposed to be built into something that hasn't been. And when you're not an artist and you haven't been in that community, you have to know these things and where some of the hurt feelings and mistrust comes from. There have been bridges over the years, but there have still been setbacks. And I think we have to all put everything in context, which is why I'm glad that you're having a conversation. It's important. We have a citywide arts festival called JCAS, the Jersey City Art and Studio Tour, that the city decided last year they could no longer afford to run. We gave it to a not-for-profit organization called 14C to run it. Okay, that entity is running it. We have no shuttle buses this year to take people around to see art in a citywide arts festival. This is where mistrust comes from. This is where the anger comes from. Okay, so now you're asking all of the people who have put time, money, energy, sweat, everything that they've had into an arts community to trust the administration again, not to trust you personally, and not even to trust the council members. It's generational trust that you're asking us to forego one more time, because this time it's all going to pan out and it's going to work. However, we're actually not really talking about an arts institution anymore. We are talking about purchasing an empty space that could be used for anything. So like, I feel like in this meeting, the conversation really has shifted. Because I would rather be talking about, are we purchasing this for arts or not? And then there's that whole financial aspect, which I'm not going to go into because I am very much concerned about fiscal responsibility, and I hope that anybody that has children are concerned about that, as you do as a father. We want to teach our kids that you don't do something unless you can pay for it, right? But
Well, let me that we have is to secure the space to enter conversations with the city council. So I don't want to be ambiguous about it. That is our intent. It is a chicken or egg. We can't have a conversation. Let's go to space. So the conversation and the vote today is about securing the space so that we can take it to the next step of the city council. They are linked, but I wanted to be clear about it. Secondly, I want to collect some information on the Jersey. And you are a huge asset in Jersey City, so I'm going to try very, very lightly frame this, okay? I got it. The Jersey City Museum was never run by the city of Jersey City, okay? We had no role in that. It was an independent board, and because it was called the Jersey City Museum, people assumed that we were running it. We had nothing to do with it. We were actually in litigation with them over a lot of these issues. We were adverse to that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm talking about really when they established themselves as a building. I don't know the previous history. Okay, so I hear you. We're talking about the year 2000, roughly 2001. Yeah, a long time ago, like predating a lot of this conversation here. But and then I've seen also that there's been some questions and conversations over the Jersey Museum, then sold the building and then got rid of its collection to somebody else. The city had nothing to do with that because we didn't have any ownership. I'd be clear that we weren't involved in any of that. With regards to JCAS, I don't know if Christine wants to talk about kind of where JCAS is now. And yeah, go ahead. Christine Goodman is our Director of Cultural Affairs for the city. Well, no, I think that
conversation in your project, which program. So if you need a bus, we'll get you a bus. We've been here to help and.
Yeah, but why to go to 14 seats?
Okay.
About the
Sure.
14 seats, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think part of the evolution of trying to wider audiences and trying this part last year, and then conversations with the community, a series of meetings on Zoom. We also had surveys of the community, and out of that came, hey, let's have 14C run JCAS. Let's see how it goes, and we can always reevaluate after October and figure out the next step. The city's very much a partner. We're here to support the whole process, the evolutionary process of finding a tour that really is responsive to artists, responsive to arts organizations, and that can kind of grow and evolve with the growing and evolving needs.
21. We have number 21. Still here? So once, go twice. Twice.
Hope it's okay. Being number 22 means I've learned a lot today, and my questions have changed. As I understand it, this project a little while ago, and many of us thought the project was dead. I for one went on vacation. I learned last week that it jumped back into bed. And now we're all here in a meeting. I think one of the things that comes out of today's meeting is the content. That you yourself have many projections for funding, for philanthropic side, a lot. And at this stage in the discussion, I would say that you're pushing too hard and you're pushing too quickly for the community of Jersey City to have to make this decision in a week. It's not tenable. The people, there's only so many people in this room. A lot of people were unable to come today. A lot of people have not learned what I learned today, or what we have all learned today. This is just, it's too fast, it's too much. Whether it goes ahead or not goes ahead, whether it's tenable or not, whether it's going to take or not, this deserves more discussion. It deserves a lot more consideration. And to try to push this through in a week and a half, generally, quite honestly, failed badly. It's not fair. It's not good. And we're all working this very city council people, with everybody, administration, if this is pushed this way. Give us time, explain, be open, put forward the points of view so that everybody can understand, including lay people like myself. We're not all financial wizards, understand. And maybe it'll fly, you know. But this this pushing and shoving and speedy trying to get it through, I understand that you're going to push back on me. You're going to say, oh, this is an opportunity. And we already have this opportunity to hang on. Come on. You have a personal relationship with KRE. You are mayor of Jersey City. You can increase the window of opportunity and you can push back on KRE and say, give us a month. It's on my website. You can do that. I know you can do it. You know you can do it. Come on, support the people. Support the people. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
No, I think some of that stuff we've answered already of why this timing is relevant. I mean, look, again, I'll say the same thing. I'll say it again. The timing is based on the fact that the building was scheduled to move forward construction regardless. Finance is in place and scheduled to move forward. Wait a second. The financing was in place and scheduled to move forward in September. We've already delayed it because there's the opportunity. And at the end of the day, the building is approved by right construction. It's different than any other abatement that we've talked about 8, 9, 10 years ago. A lot of those projects were not financially viable absent an abatement. It's a different conversation on that. And that's the reason why the timing is what it is. But look, the timing is related to that. Yes, this is a question in front for a second reading through the process. The opportunity today was a request from the city council to try and answer questions, and I thought it was important too because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so the goal today was to answer questions. We put questions about budget, we answered them. We put questions about timing, we answered them. Questions on location, we answered them. So we tried our best to answer questions because, you know, I read the same things that you guys read. Okay, there's questions that comparison to the MoMA, hundreds of millions of dollars in the budget. Okay, that's not a fair. But I know it's not you. But I'm just saying questions on that the city gave away artwork in the Jersey City Museum. I know that wasn't you, Cap, but I've read that sort of stuff. So I said we're going to come here and answer some of these questions best we can. Yeah.
Well, just to be clear, I requested the meeting. Yeah. Voice include. By the way, it's not even our process. That's the contract of the developer. Like I said, I requested the meeting. Magnitude should have the input of the people who's ultimately going to be affected. I'm disappointed. I think it's concerned. Look, you may well win. Might get everything you want, but some people do it when they approve of it. Well, we don't even move on to the government. So this is going to be here. I'm not
branch managers. I
And-
love the city, I'm not going anywhere, I
You
love,
believe that,
I,
all the people.
And 24, just raise your hand.
All my questions have been answered. But I'm actually interested to, meaning that you mentioned that this is a city decision, this is a. I'm actually interested to hear from the. From the perspective of candidates on their thoughts regarding this project. Concerns or they see positives, so, you know, I'm hearing a lot of good things from the mayor. Numbers can be projected in a lot of different ways, but again.
I think I would honestly.
Not to cut you off here, but I'm actually interested in hearing from.
Yeah.
Council. That they're still here.
They sent me a lot of questions, and I've done my best to, I don't know if you've seen them, they sent me a lot of questions, but they've been concerned, not even the ones that are here, you got 3 of them here. They sent me questions, not all of them. Okay, sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna be very, very clear. We in Councilman Board. I have an arts background, I have an arts education. So I've been very closely following everything that's been happening with the conversation on the Pompidou. Before we leave the conversation on Pompidou, when we had conversation on acquiring the backside building. My role here today is to listen to all of the questions, to really fully understand the concerns, to understand both sides and all sides of this process. So I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote on this right now. I'm going to tell you that I'm a strong supporter. That it's projects are beneficial to the city. How and what they look like. This is not really the forum for that right now. I also know very, very long afternoon people. Happy to take your contact information and have that conversation with you. I know I had sent questions to the mayor. He had also sent them out to Amy Wilson. She had published them in one of the newsletters, so you can read some of the questions that I've been asking. You have to ask critical questions and you have to ask hard questions because this is not a black and white issue. There's a lot of nuance here and there's a lot of positive, but there also is concern because there is, you know, not every project is perfect and not everything is going to be 100% how we like it to be. So that's initially my thoughts. I was not prepared to speak on it, so I sound a little scattered, I might be why, but I'm happy to discuss it further with you should you like.
I agree with Mira. Also, I received numerous calls this morning. There should be a meeting of the 26th school for People Heights. And also, the girl that runs the Hilltop is away, and the Hilltop should be organized on what's going on. The meeting's changing.
Councilman, I just wanna just reiterate, how important it is to have these community dialogues. And I also wanna emphasize how disappointed I am in the administration for this happening so much. And two, for not even advertising on the city website, how we advertise. So I think if we're going to have a are you gonna take the input, the direction of what people are asking? I thought this was gonna be it's actually on site affordable housing. That even it's a conversation, we have a conversation that was them just getting back to me. Only I'm aware who center is so. So that's supposed to be an opportunity for them to go back. Seems to be like diligence.
Before we get to the next question, I'm saying to HCCC. personally. You know, issues throughout General Square and throughout the city. The timing was an issue. Obviously, our membership care about lack of transparency. The HCCC is fighting for more affordable housing in General Square. There's a public fight in the city going on. 2 months. Partnership. See affordable housing in General Square. A lot of priorities going on. But watch the interview. Any questions you want to public. Go through one. 23. 4.
Halfway there. Oh, we traded up. Name first, the kind of made it be their number and slide in. Yeah. We've been residents of. So I just want to lay down ground. We are doing here. I don't know that that's the point of government. You know, we come here and we vote every 4 years to have elected representatives to deal with us on matters like these. Or are we going to expect to show up at the council every week and give our input on every single thing here? You know, I had an idea sitting here listening to a lot of the conversation. Maybe we should sell off. We spent a lot of time in Hampton Park. Can't wait for the courthouse. But the thing is, taxes go to a lot of things. I am horribly jealous hearing that the Pompidou gets 68% of its funding from the French government. I wish we had it. We don't have a city like that. We don't have a community like that. But as much as we can do to get there, I really beg you all to consider that. From what I'm hearing in this room, Steve is right in a lot of ways. This is a conversation about what you do with 100 square feet in a 60-story building. It sounds like a lot of people wish it weren't getting built. Is it worth what we're paying? You know, would we rather have $8 million to spend on other things? Or would we rather have $3 million for schools? You know what? The developers brought a supermarket to the neighborhood. But as noted, the back and forth, like the back and forth, a lot of information. I don't go to Grand Bog. The churches of the suburbs is so that we don't have to drive. All right, hold on. Rosary's not back, so you have a question. Yes, they should just leave it this way. That's so. Sorry. Dedicated. Came here with my son to participate in the very great. I actually did have a question. I was curious because I thought that 808 was going for a bill as a cultural project. I'm sorry to hear that it's like me. Because, you know, we live on Magnolia. It's course our you go straight to the path and go to New York City. These changes are happening no matter what. So we can learn and have a great community. I mean, I've been amazed about restaurants that go. Oh my God, I don't just have to go to see a picture of the city and then go enjoy myself in New York. We can build a better community, hopefully for everyone. I know these things are difficult. There's not enough resources for anyone, but end of the sign, Thank you. Thank you. 25. Sorry, but cultural. So conversation for the 10 years, 11 years that I've been the mayor. So, the family that owned this parking garage wanted to sell it, and there was a lot of people involved. The Jericho family passed away, and then it became more complicated for the better part of 10 years. Started and failed. And by luck, this summer they came to a conclusion. And that seems to work. Okay.
the art walk was always part of the original plans. The planning department always included a way to connect Journal Square to Mana. And they also anticipated a gallery open space as part of that walkway, okay? Since that original plan was in place, we decided to widen that walkway as a public space on the condemnation. The Centre Pompidou will take the gallery space as part of phase one to immediately have a presence, assuming we could get there. And that walkway connecting it to Mana was always part of the plan there. And so this kind of enhances it in reality, but we didn't anticipate it that way. We anticipated being a path side and then going the other way towards Mana.
25.
My name is Paula Williams. I've been living in the Jones Square area for like over 30 years. And I like to know, me and the children, could you get them to take some of them towers that they're building and make them affordable for people that work at Walmart or Target or some other stores? It's nice for them to have some place like also Fifth Avenue and Van Wagon. We had a supermarket there. Well, since God knows, used to be shot right at one time. And as a few years ago, Ashley told us that they cannot be here no more because a condo was coming in because they won't renovate these.
Yeah. A supermarket. I don't want to. Are you finished? Is that?
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay. So I don't know if you're familiar. Target is coming to Journal
Yes, I
Square,
know.
right? So that'll be helpful, of course. Getting some things, but wait a second. I mean, obviously, the Street to it. If you go to the one downtown, you can see that. But
So we just want to get to pause and give you a recap of what's been going on so far. If you're just now tuning in, this has been a live stream of Mayor Fulop's meeting regarding the proposed 30-year tax abatement for the $100 million or the $100 million tax break regarding 2 luxury apartment towers in Journal Square. As was mentioned in the meeting, the Pompidou is not guaranteed. What the city would get in return for a 30-year tax break is ownership of 100,000 square feet. Now there is no plans currently for that 100,000 square feet build out to be funded yet. There has been no talks of where these funds would come from, how much it would cost to build it out, who would be responsible for paying for the build out, what the management cost would be, all the costs affiliated with running a program in this $100,000 square foot space was not discussed. All that has been said over and over again by the mayor is that this 30-year tax abatement, which would result in the city losing $100 million plus in tax revenue, would result in the city owning the space. And the community did a good job of coming out and speaking about the fact that, the city doesn't do a good job with the spaces that we own, especially when we give it to the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency to manage. The Jersey City Redevelopment Agency has been known to give away spaces that Jersey City owns at a nominal fee to luxury developers. Look at the Liberty Science Center, for instance. The Liberty Science Center, SciTech City rather. The Jersey City Redevelopment Center gave SciTech City, Jersey City land for free, and it was supposed under the guise of building Scholars Village. And when the Scholars Village presentation came about, it turned out to be 100% luxury units, no affordable units in Scholars Village whatsoever. And this is what we're afraid of happening again, is that Jersey City will once again come upon this land and the taxpayers will foot the bill, and the city will not be responsible with this land and will just give it away. We got to remember, this administration still has 1 more year in office. Fulop might be running for governor, but he still has 1 more year here in Jersey City. And we need to pay close attention to the land that we put in his power, the land that he will have the authority over, because he essentially has authority over the majority of the city council. Look back at city council meetings and you see the way your representatives represent you. They don't represent you. They represent the person who foot the bill for their election. They all, majority of them, except for Solomon and Gilmore, ran on the mayor's ticket, and they always vote in his favor. So you really have to come out to the meeting and tell your council people to vote in your favor, represent you, not Fulop. This is not Fulop City. This is your city. This is your city. You have the power and authority to tell your elected officials how you wish to vote. With that said, I just want to show you some information. I'm going to share my screen and share with you how to access information and how to be more engaged. We normally on Saturday mornings have our caucus meeting, but we forfeited our caucus meeting to go live from the mayor's community meeting, which was not even well advertised. As Councilman Gilmore stated in the meeting, that this meeting wasn't even advertised on the Jersey City website, unfortunately. And it's supposed to be a community meeting. It's supposed to be a public meeting. And the only advertisements we saw was on Facebook and Instagram from the Journal Square Association. Journal Square created a flyer, but the city of Jersey City did not create a flyer as requested. So we want you guys to come on out to the caucus. You can visit everythingwardf.com. And even if you go to the homepage, if you just go to everythingwardf.com, we want you to click on Community Caucus. And there you'll get all of the details with regards to all the council and caucus meetings. We host our community caucuses. We, as in Ward F, we go live on the Saturdays before the council's caucus. Council holds their caucuses on Mondays, and the council meeting where the votes take place happens on Wednesdays. These are all links on how to participate. You can participate in our Zoom meeting on Saturdays. You can watch live on Teams on Mondays. You can sign up to speak. And that's the only way that you can engage is in person. So you can sign up to speak in person, but regarding this Wednesday, you will not have to sign up to speak regarding the Pompidou. You just come because it's the second reading. So I'm going to show you what's a second reading. A second reading is a second reading of an ordinance. So we're on the municipal website now. We're going to click on September 25th meeting. We're going to split that screen, and Councilman Gilmore is coming in now. Councilman, I'm just telling the people how to access our website. He's coming in now. Councilman, I'm just telling the community how to access our website, everythingwardf.com, go to the caucus, sign up to speak, and how to access the city council agenda, and let them know that this is a second reading. They don't have to sign up to speak at all. They just come to the podium and line up for the second reading. Tell us your because the sound was going in and out, and unfortunately when you spoke, we heard Mira, we heard Bogiano. Tell us your feedback, because I did hear the fact that you were still disappointed.
Yeah, so basically my feedback was, well, first I wanted to let them know that I had personally requested that the administration and the mayor do a community meeting, because I feel like it was important. A project at such a big magnitude that the community, one, should be aware of, and two, they should be able to voice their questions, comments, concerns, whether it's pro, con, for, against, if the developer should get a tax abatement. But I was disappointed in the fact that even as an elected official, I just got the flyer 3 days ago. I was disappointed that they did it on a day which it's so much going on in the community. You have a bunch of events going on that people have prior engagements to attend. People are traveling or doing whatever they're doing with their life. And then two, the fact that this is something that wasn't even shared via any city platforms. They post everything else. They couldn't post to the city or the community at large that this meeting was taking place. So I was disappointed in the city's effort to get the word out. And I also felt like this was nothing more than a meeting of due diligence, doing a meeting just for the sake of saying that you've done a meeting. I honestly don't believe that they're taking any of the feedback that the community is voicing their concerns over. And there's the problem in a nutshell with the administration and how they've been operating for some time now. And it's kind of like, we think this is a good idea. Here's why we think it's a good idea. And let's just move forward, And it's like, well, if it's such a project of this big magnitude, why are we rushing to do this as soon as possible? And I know a lot of people have shared sentiments that, the Kushners and the mayor went to school or their friends. I didn't really focus on much of that because, my primary focus was centered around making sure everyone or most people's voices were included on how, this deferred payment of upwards of 200 million. And then again, the number just kept shifting. There's just so much uncertainty with this project. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We don't know what the licensing fee is going to be, which we got to pay annually. In fact, that's my first time of actually even hearing about that. Like I said, every time we talk about this project, it's something new that come up. And that's why I've urged the mayor and the administration to constantly engage people, because it's a huge project. We're constantly learning new things. So I just thought it was a fair act to ask them to put a pause on it. But all in all, a lot of people are pretty upset, and pissed off, one, at the lack of transparency, and it's just so much with the project.
And a lot of good points were made by the community. I'm so glad that the community did come out and actually point out the fact that Jersey City does not have a good reputation for when it comes to taking
Managing
care
our
of
own
our
property.
own
Yes.
properties.
Yeah. So this perceived benefit of 100,000 square feet, it's not really a benefit considering how we've been as landlords in these spaces. So it was definitely, I mean, I had so many problems with the project, but sitting at that meeting for the last 3 hours, I've learned so much more, just based on the questions that people are asking as it relates to expertise in certain areas. The people who have expertise on finance and arts institutions, people who have expertise on the difference between the for-profit sector and the nonprofit sector, the library, the tax rep, like it just was so enlightful. And just think this was done on like a quick turnaround, and it wasn't even properly advertised. So imagine if we really had time to divulge and dive into this, then we can really get a good project out of this, if we take our time.
Right. Well, speaking of advertising, just want to once again let everybody know to come out to the caucus. I think we should do another Instagram live, a Facebook live on Wednesday, and even Monday during the caucus and after the caucus, to make sure that the community knows that they have a right to come out. They have a right to come and make sure that their city council members are voting in their favor. This is not Mayor Phillips' city. This is not their city. This is your city. And your council members need to represent you, not the people who did the bill for their election campaign.
Yes, I think we'll do a whole get out and voice your concern campaign for this upcoming Wednesday. I know this week is going to be, oh my God, we have the MUA meeting, we have press, it's going to be a lot going on, but we're going to do our due diligence and make sure that we, get this information out to the masses.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. We appreciate you going live.
Yes.
Make it a great day.
All right.